Hi, Ayla here from the Revive Lake Cathie team.
I'm the communications manager. I'm here with our president, Danielle Maltman. We're just about to give you a bit of an update of where we're at. Hi, Danielle. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Ayla?
Yeah, I'm really well, thanks. Did you want to give us a bit of a rundown of where we're at the moment?
In regards to the lake, we're waiting on the REF to be updated. And what people might not realise is the REF is review of environmental factors, and it's a legal requirement for council to comply with Crown lands to get that lake opened.
Yeah, so it's a study that needs to be provided to apply for the licence?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
For a short-term licence for the lake's opening.
And do you know where that's at? Because it was a little while ago that the council said that they were applying for the licence.
Yeah, well, at the moment, I've actually randomly sent an email off last night, and we're looking at trying to get some more information up on that. And Revive Lake Cathie has, as of last night, asked for monthly meetings with council just to see so we can communicate with our members in the community and let them know where that's up to.
Yeah. So Revive Lake Cathie had a meeting with council and all of the stakeholders as of late, is that correct?
Yeah, well, we actually had that meeting in December.
Yeah.
Subsequent to that, and that was a lot of the stakeholders were behind that. Like, they've always been very supportive of action for the Lake Cathie Lake Innes Estuarine system, and they really wanted to meet us, and we're very thankful for their push in getting us into that stakeholder meeting. And that was with some MPs, the departments like the Office of Environment and Heritage, Crown Lands, Fisheries, and so on. In that meeting, we looked at everything that needed to be done in specifically to Lake Cathie, Lake Innes Estuarine system. And then subsequent to that, we've now just recently, Dave and I went to the Coast Estuary and Floodplain Management meeting, and that's a 5-year volunteer commitment. So we went there, and we actually, in the interim, while that's being formalised, that group, we, Dave and I both represented the Lake Cathie Progress Association, the Camden Haven Chamber of Commerce, and Revive until that gets formalised. So we actually went to that meeting. It was discussing a number of things across the LGA, which is the local government area. So, you know, the Hastings River, the Camden Haven, everything. And Lake Cathie is a part of that. So we had that first meeting. It was mostly around governance. The next meeting we thought was scheduled for the 10th of February, but that's like, at the moment, we've been told that's a significant issue in the south of the Camden Haven. But the next meeting is actually not scheduled to May. So last night I sent off an email to the General Manager. We've just got serious concerns that if we can't discuss what's going on in Lake Cathie until May, that's pretty problematic considering the dire situation.
Lake Cathie's, been involved in, some severe fires over New Year's as well.
Yeah.
So that's impacted, the condition of the lake. I saw a post on Facebook this morning that there was an area in Victoria where they're actually saving some of the marine life from the ash that had fallen into the water. Yeah. Do you think that has happened at Lake Cathie as well?
Look, I think back in, I think it was November when we reported red spot disease. That's just due to low water quality anyway. That's a number of factors, acid sulfate soils. Like, the whole estuarine system is impacted by a number of things. And I think our next thing, should we get some significant rain, could potentially be a fire debris coming in there, potentially causing a sludge. But there's been a decimation up in Lake Innes anyway, and that will then, if any significant rain comes, it will bring a fire debris sludge through, and that will decimate the system any more.
Yeah. So the fish kills. What has triggered that?
The fish kills in Lake Cathie, you mean, and Lake Innes?
Yeah.
Or everywhere?
Yeah.
Well, in our case, poor water drought for one. The man-made constraints. People talk about, we just need rain in that estuarine system. And that's not factual. Like, there are man-made constraints that have impacted tidal flow. As people can see south of Kenwood Drive Bridge, there's simply no water. When we had the stakeholder meetings, we talked about having a holistic approach, and that starts at Lake Innes and addressing the acid sulfate impact on that. That's a real problem. So what happens is, like, an intermittent rain, and I'm no scientist, but from we've learnt a lot, like all of us, is intermittent rain will come and activate those soils, and it leaches sulfuric acid. So not only does it impact the water and the marine life, it impacts the plants and what all the animals up there have to eat because it contaminates them. But, so it's a real struggle in that estuarine system on a number of fronts.
So when people think Lake Cathie, they think of the lagoon, jumping off the bridge, having picnics with their families. But, what some people don't realise is actually how big that estuarine system is. And it's now incorporated into Lake Innes. So is that the one estuarine system now?
It has, well, it's previously Lake Innes, just for a background and history, used to be a lake of national significance, a freshwater lake.
Yeah.
And back in the 30s, they opened up that lake, sort of like a work for the dole type of scenario, to create agricultural land up there. And it's called the Cutting. It's quite, it's straight, and that's why they call it the Cutting. And that allowed salt water to encroach into the Lake Innes estuarine system and then convert it now into the salt water that it actually is, the whole estuarine system connected. And that was done for the purpose of creating agricultural land, and that actually failed. So subsequent to that, it's been, going into a swamp-type scenario up in Lake Innes. And when we've talked to the fisheries, we have a number of fishermen talk to us as well. And they said around the fire time, they pretty much pulled out of the Lake Cathie, whatever leases were left there, they pulled out of the Lake Innes area because the fish were impacted by fire debris, the acid sulfate soils, because there was some intermittent hard short bursts of rain at that time as well, randomly, and that activated the acid sulfate soils. We went in there towards the end of last year. Some people might have seen photos of us falling over in that sludge up there, but and a lot of the marine life were decimated up there. It was actually quite strange because when we went in there was complete silence. There was one bird, and it was just decimated up there.
So that has huge impacts on the tidal flow of the entire estuarine system. And there's also the Kenwood Drive Bridge, and the opening of the lake in 2018 as well.
It all impacts each other. So when people say, Revive Lake Cathie started to get Kenwood Drive Bridge replaced, there's a number of priorities that Revive Lake Cathie has, which is looking at Lake Innes and its impacts on the whole estuarine system and how it runs. Because, we've got houses built around that area. We're going to have more houses built around that whole area. And we would love to get it back to how Mother Nature would like. But you can't do that when you've got those type of impacts and infrastructure already.
The development and all the water runoff and things like that.
But we want to try and get it to give Mother Nature a hand up as much as we can to get it back. So that will be, and that has been, reviewing tidal impacts, of which Kenwood Drive is a significant constraint. It absolutely needs to be replaced, and it will be a Revive Lake Cathie priority no matter what. So
that I've heard some talk about the wash away of the sand, and people talking that they would like a wall up there. The Lake Cathie Progress Association, they're focusing on that.
The Progress Association is talking about the revetment wall, and that's in front of Illaroo, but Drive. So that is to protect that area from erosion.
Yeah.
And so that also, I think it's pretty much, and I might be corrected on this, that it links into the Lake Cathie Foreshore Master Plan. So Council, and in collaboration with the community, did a great plan for Lake Cathie, which stage one of it was the park, and it'll also be the skate park. And then the pathway will then connect over into Aqua Crescent all the way up through, and then we'll then link onto the revetment wall.
There are a couple of community groups I know, like the skate park, the Progress Association, the Lions Club, they've done some fantastic work and are focusing on some pretty big projects in the area. So, we're obviously working with those corporations as well. The on Saturday we went over to the Koala Hospital and did some volunteering. That was heaps of fun. Because obviously, with the fires we had, pretty impacted as well, and there were some rare koalas over near the Lake Innes area.
Revive Lake Cathie scope of works is the Lake Cathie estuarine system, which encapsulates the Lake Cathie Reserve, Lake Innes Nature Reserve. And there was a purebred colony, and that I could also be corrected there as well, of koalas. So when we offered our assistance towards the end of last year to help the Koala Hospital, and they said they'd get us involved, because they've been absolutely impacted up there. Their volunteers are unbelievable, but they're exhausted. So we stepped in and gave a hand around the adoptions paperwork, and we got that done on Saturday, and we'll do more of that.
Because obviously it affects, all the flora, the fauna, the marine life. Yeah. That's really, something we can't get back if they suffer too much.
Absolutely.
So next council meeting, we've requested for Dave Curry to speak.
We have indeed. So we put his name down to speak at the forum. We don't get advised until that day whether he's actually accepted to speak, and he'll be speaking to councillors. And the reason we speak to the councillors is just to ensure that they know that the Lake Cathie, Lake Innes estuarine system is a massive priority for this area. And the more people we have behind Revive Lake Cathie shows our councillors, who are our representatives in council, that we seek immediate action for rescuing that system.
So the local council, they're our first point of contact.
Yeah, they're the
as
community's
public.
first point of contact.
Yeah.
And then they will then push our case with the council staff, and that's where we are in terms of getting, immediate action on that REF. And then it comes to stakeholders. So we've had a bit of pushback of people not understanding why we're having all these meetings all the time. And look, there's a number of stakeholders in this estuarine system. And if people want to look that up, you can get onto Port Macquarie Hastings Council's website. Under Lake Cathie tenure, it'll give you a map, and I've got it here. And the map talks about who the stakeholders are that we actually have to deal with, because there's legislations for each stakeholder that governs this Lake Cathie system. And it's national parks. So National Parks and Wildlife pretty much manage west of Ocean Drive Bridge. So that's all the way south into Lake Cathie proper. That's what they call Lake Cathie proper, south of Kenwood Drive Bridge, and north up into Lake Innes as well. Then we've also got Crown Lands. We've got, there's a mega government department now, which is Department of Primary Industries and Office of Environment Heritage. They're now called DPI. They've all merged. So that's Department of Primary Industries and Environment. So that's another team we have to work with, as well as council. And Crown Land manages the governors of Lake Cathie Lagoon, which is east of the bridge, is council under Crown Land. So there's Crown Lands and Fisheries and a number of other groups involved. So we absolutely have to deal with the stakeholders. We have to have meetings to look at the legislation and work with the legislation as to how we get the best outcome for the lake.
So, as for steps to open the lake, it's really red tape. And what I mean by that is, it's ticking boxes for all the stakeholders, really, is it?
Oh, it absolutely is. And sometimes when we're going through all this legislation and speaking with the department, sometimes I think we really need to rename our Lake Red Tape, but there's a number of lakes in the state that should also name their lakes Lake Red Tape, because Lake Conjola, who we've been speaking a lot to, they're under the same, and they've been working very hard since 1999 to get action on their lake. Yeah. They previously weren't an ICOL, we are. So an ICOL is an intermittent opening and closing lake or lagoon, and they are now that. And they, when we had discussions with them, that's occurred because of inaction. And a lot of we've talked about Colin Crichton a lot. We got him down. He's a world-renowned scientist. He wrote a report in 93 about restoration works that need to be done. So
he's like a world-renowned scientist.
Yeah, he's amazing. And he's so passionate about that estuarine system. He came down here, he volunteered to help that lake. It was very genuine. And he's so smart and he's so knowledgeable on that lake and very passionate about saving it, because in 1983, he's come out and pretty much said, this is what you need to do to get action, and failure to get action is now resultant in our current
what's
condition.
happening now? That was predicted, 30 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, wow. That's such a long time.
It is absolutely a long time. And you can go through, I recommend everyone have a look at that that's very interested in Lake Cathie and Lake Innes, and have a look at his recommendations, because now we've got such sediment in there, even when we get some rain, that's going to be problematic.
So he, correct me if I'm wrong, he specialises in reporting on human impacts on water systems and the way that we've structured drains and things like that, and where
all
our water
type
runs
of environmental impacts, everything. He's an amazing human being, as well as a very, very professional scientist.
We're so lucky to have people like that support us.
I know.
And I mean, it is the scientists. If they could predict it 30 years ago, well, obviously they can tell us how to correct it. And he's had massive wins with correcting, things in the past.
And we've had significant support. Like Kate and I went down, we took some annual leave and off we went to the Coastal Conference at the end of November, when the fires were actually happening here. And we got so much support down there from the Australian Coastal Council. We'll go again this year to that conference. And a lot of the scientists there, we were having, after that conference, we were having 4-hour meetings a day over a 4-day period with all the stakeholders and all these scientists.
What is the Coastal Conference?
It's a New South Wales Coastal Conference. It's held every year. I think this year it's happening in Kingscliff. And it's where all the scientists and estuarine specialists and coastal, especially they talk about erosion and estuarine, like the lakes and so on, they all get together. People put solutions forward about, and it blew my mind. It really blew my mind.
Well, that's amazing that, something that was started, just a little over a year ago, has been invited to something like that.
I know. We actually won an award there for community involvement because the community had backed us so hard and were really helping us to seek action.
Yeah.
So we run, and it was amazing because there's a emirate Professor Bruce Toms was super supportive of Revive Lake Cathie. He's one of our biggest advocates, and he wants to see the best for the environment as well.
So there's a lot of frustration, around it. Some of the people from the public ask all the time, when are they opening the lake? There's so many impacts and so many stakeholders and, so much going on that it's not, it's not a straightforward answer, but...
No, I get it, don't you? So what's happened is the council has said, let's open the lake. The council has agreed in it on a mayoral minute from Mayor Peter Pinson, and that's been agreed. So then you would expect action, and then the red tape stepped in, and now we've got this REF that needs to be done, and, I absolutely get
So you need a licence to open the lake, but where does that, who do you get that licence from?
You get the licence from Crown Lands, but you have to be compliant to the legislation to get the licence, and that's the REF.
Oh, so that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need the REF. That's our next step.
We need the REF, and we need that as soon as possible. And that's one of the reasons why we've Revive Lake Cathie's asked for monthly meetings with council, because I think we can't wait till May for another coast and estuarine floodplain meeting. It's too dire in there. We need to know what's going on now, as does the community.
So there's so many people that this affects. Obviously the local community, business, environmental tourism to the area, which is bringing in funding.
The biggest part, though, is the mental health, because we've got so many people at the moment that have used that lake for recreation and getting together and community. And at the moment, it's you go down there and you've just got marine life dying at your feet, and it's not really a good place. So the community is heavily impacted, not from an economic perspective, but an environment perspective, but also from a mental health perspective.
It does. It really saddens me. I start my work day every Saturday, at the lake, and that's a bit of a routine I've been doing for a couple of years. And
it's sadder is that, towards the end of the year, you're thinking, wow, great, the lake's going to be open, and then you've stepped into red tape land. So that's where the frustration, I get the community is frustrated. And I'm
frustrated.
Oh, same. But we are working as best we can with the stakeholders and with council to get immediate action. And that is meetings. Sad but true.
Well, at the beginning, it was a hard start, but conversations are happening
all the time.
And it was a big triumph to actually get those conversations happening in the beginning.
Well, I'm proud of what we've achieved already. We only started in March last year. You look at Lake Conjola, they started back in 1999. Our strategy was always to get a huge spotlight on Lake Cathie, and we've achieved that. We had a prolific, and we've had standing ovations for that campaign to get the light shining on Lake Cathie, and we've absolutely done that nationally, in the state and locally as well. We've got a lot of support from the stakeholders, which has been so great.
Well, I really look forward to, the next council meeting. Hopefully we do get to speak there. I'll certainly be attending. And, in the near future, we can give everyone the next update.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time today.
No, thanks, Ayla. I appreciate it. And I thank you for all the work that you do in Revive Lake Cathie. I really appreciate it.
And yourself. Thanks so much. All right, guys, we'll be back for your next update.